Hi everybody, and welcome back to the next live based upon my book Beyond Asanas. This book was published in 2019, and for most of the days in this month I'm going through the book chapter by chapter, and today's chapter is chapter 14, and chapter 14 is Padmasana. As most of you know, Padmasana is the lotus pose. Now, I'd like to show you the picture of Padmasana in the book, and this is the picture, and this is actually taken in Hampi, in one of the temples in the Vithala complex of temples in Hampi. And in my stories, I'm also going to share this picture was taken in 2016, and in my stories today, I'm going to share the picture that I took in the same exact place, a couple of weeks ago when we were in Hampi. So as you can see, all the pictures in this book are fabulous. It looks like I'm the only one there, but believe me, these pictures were taken like when the monuments were open for everybody for tourism. And when I look back on these pictures, I really think of like how special these pictures are, and it's made this book a lot more special. So like I said, chapter 14 is Padmasana, and the Padmasana is in Sanskrit it's called Kamal, and a lot of people or Padma, and another name is Kamal or Kamla, and a lot of people are called Kamal. Like Kamal is a very popular male name in India, and Kamla is the name for a female. And the reason people use these names is because the lotus actually also depicts a certain beauty, like a very high level of beauty. It depicts grace, divinity. All of these ideas are associated with the lotus, which is why we have the Padmasana. We have an asana named after the lotus, which is why lots of people name their children after the lotus. So it's something very auspicious as well. So and in our scriptures, in the Hindu scriptures, we say things like, for instance, Shiva is very frequently depicted in the Padmasana, so that is Shiva's connection with the lotus. Vishnu has eyes like the lotus, and Brahma was born from a lotus, and so that story, which is like the birth of Brahma, is what I have explored in chapter 14. And chapter 14 actually there are two stories in chapter 14, and the first one is actually the one I really like. It's again related to the process of creation. And the process of creation, according to Hindu mythology, is that in the beginning of everything, in the beginning there was only time. So that's why we say before time or in the beginning of time, because time is a measure of time itself. So in the beginning there was nothing, there was only time. And time, as this personality, it was omnipresent. It was something that would exist forever, and it permeated everywhere. So again, this is Hindu philosophy. So you have to keep an open mind and think about things philosophically. So time just had, it was meaningless. Time just stretched in all directions. Time stretched for infinity. Time had no beginning, no end. And time was also meaningless because there was nothing in time. Nothing was happening in time. So what happened was Shakti saw that, there is time. Now Shakti was a kind of, you can say, an energy, and in Hindu mythology we give everything a character, so time becomes a character on its own. And so this idea of a feminine power, this idea of the feminine principle, is also a character. Maybe not a character with like a face and hands and feet, but just the potential energy that exists is also considered a character, and that was Shakti. Now Shakti was the female principle, time was the male principle. So that's why we still say, like, the female principle, Mother Earth, it's female. Shakti is female, and time is given male attributes. And if you think about it, we have like grandfather clocks, so father time, it's always Mother Nature and Father Time. So Mother Nature and Father Time, they got together, and they decided, in Hindu mythology, they decided to create Shiva and Vishnu. they wanted to create the creator and the destroyer. So the ability to create life and then to end life. And this happened because of the powers of yoga. So Shakti in herself possessed the power or the secrets of yoga and could actually manifest the creator and the destroyer. But now once they had these two, there was the necessity to sustain. So once something is created, we need to sustain it, and then destruction can happen, and then we can have this cycle of life. So now both Father Time and Mother Nature, they were like, okay, we have the creation and we have the destruction, but what about sustenance? And then Shakti within her also contained the seed of life. Okay, so the life-giving seed. Again, this is metaphorical. And so what she does is she puts that seed in a little bit of water and it germinates. Okay, once it germinates, Shakti finds out that there needs to be a little bit more care that needs to be taken of this germinated seed of life. And so she looks around for like how she can provide this. And she sees that there's a lotus. So again, the lotus imagery comes. She sees there's this lotus sprouting from Vishnu's navel. And she puts this seed in Vishnu's navel. And this seed, it germinates. And that is where Lord Brahma comes. And Lord Brahma becomes the preserver. So that's how from the creator the creator creates the sustainer, and then the destruction happens. So it's sort of like a very nice kind of cycle of life and death that we have in this is like the process of creation and destruction and preserver. This is how the Holy Trinity in Hindu mythology came about. So so that is what that's the first story, that that once then Brahma was created, then Brahma went on to create the rest of the universe. And that the rest of the universe, the story of how Brahma created the universe and how the challenges that he faced, is something I've spoken about in my previous live, in my live on chapter 13. My next story that I speak about is the story of the Padma Purana. Now the Puranas are this like body of literature in Hinduism. And the Puranas, basically, they say that if you read the Puranas, they tell you the secrets of how to attain moksha. And the lotus is so important that there's an entire Purana named after the lotus, which is the Padma Purana. And the lotus as an imagery itself exists everywhere. So if you go to any temple in India, you'll see the lotus carved on the rocks. And the lotus is very important. The lotus was first mentioned in the Rig Veda, so the lotus has a great symbolic value in Hinduism. And so and we believe that the Puranas were written by Ved Vyas, who's the guy who also wrote the Mahabharata. So that's a little bit about like how important the lotus is. Also, like the Guru's feet are described as the lotus feet. So the lotus feet of the Guru. So that is about Padma Purana. The lotus is so important that we have an entire Purana named after the lotus. Now, every chapter has a significance and symbolism. And for this one, I've spoken about how the Guru's feet are referred to as the lotus feet, and that is where you find enlightenment. At the Guru's feet is where you find enlightenment. Similarly, the Padma Purana, if you read that, it'll teach you how to attain moksha. And I'll read out to you, the small summary of the symbolism that I've written. And what I've written is, a lotus grows in muddy waters, but is never muddied. Similarly, we should be able to live in a world full of vices and temptations, and yet stay focused on the purpose of our lives. So as yogis, whenever we practice the Padmasana, this is what we should remember, that the significance of Padmasana lies in the significance of the lotus in Hindu philosophy. And the significance of the lotus is this, that it can be in an environment that can be quite unhealthy and which can bog the lotus down, and which is very different from what the beauty of the lotus, essential beauty of the lotus. Yet the lotus blooms. So a little bit of a message for how we can deal with certain situations that come our way in life. I further go on to say, a lotus is rooted, like the mountains are rooted to the earth. But unlike the mountains, the lotus started off as a small shoot in dirty water. It is unlikely for something so beautiful and graceful to emerge from muck, but the lotus flower, through sheer persistence, does so and blooms beautifully. When I read this, I think of, I recently got a piece of jewelry with the lotus, like a pretty little necklace. And I feel like I should have worn that for this live. But anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this live. I hope you're getting insight into asanas and what they mean through these lives that I'm doing. And as usual, if you have any questions about mythology, about yoga philosophy, please drop me a comment or email me. And with that, we come to an end, and I will see you again tomorrow with another live based on my book, Beyond Asanas. Thank you so much.